So hello, welcome everyone, class 7 students. In this video we are going to discuss some of the short and long answer type questions from the chapter Fiber to Fabric. So let's begin from question number 1. If you have written these answers, these question and answers, then no need to write it again. And if you have not written, then please write it down in your science notebook. Okay, so let's begin from question number 1. Why do wool yielding animals like sheep have a thick coat of hair on their body? Okay, you have understood the question, right? The wool yielding animals like sheep have a thick coat of hair on their body. Why? Because you see, the hair or say wool trap a lot of air. The hair or wool trap a lot of air. Now air is a poor conductor of heat. As you have read in chapter number 4, that is in chapter heat, you have understood that air is poor conductor of heat. So the trapped in hair of these animals prevent their body heat from being lost to the cold surroundings and keeps themselves warm in the winter season. Okay, the trapped in hair of these animals prevent their body heat from being lost to the cold surroundings, okay, and keeps themselves warm in the winter season. So this is the answer of question number 1. Let's move to the next question. Question number 2. What is meant by rearing and breeding of sheep? Rearing of sheep means to look after the sheep by providing them food, shelter and health care. Okay, breeding means what? Breeding of sheep means to choose a parent sheep of a good breed, okay, which are selectively bred to obtain good quality of wool in large quantities in their offspring. Okay, this process is also known as what? Selective breeding, right? The breeding of a good sheep, the breeding of a good parent sheep are selectively bred with some other sheep, female sheep or say male sheep. Okay, a male sheep is basically bred with a female sheep, okay, both of which should be of good quality, by which they provide good quality wool. Okay, so to obtain good quality wool in large quantities in their offspring, this process is done. This is called as only breeding. Okay, clear? Next, move to the next question. Describe briefly how wool is obtained from sheep and processed to make woolen yarn. Okay. Step 1. The fleece of the sheep along with a thin layer of skin is removed from their body. This process is called as shearing, right? And nowadays machines which are used by barbers to cut the hair of a person. Those machines are only used to remove the hair of the sheep. Okay, hair are removed during basically in the hot weather, and this enables sheep to survive without their protective coat of hair. Okay, this hair only provides what? Woolen fibers. So step 2, what is done? See, the sheared hair, that is the cut off hair. It may contain dust and dirt, it may contain grease also, so it has to be cleaned, it has to be washed. So the sheared skin with hair is thoroughly washed in tanks to remove grease, dust and dirt. This process is called as scouring. Okay, and after scouring, in step number 3, sorting is done. After scouring, what is done? Sorting is done. So what happens in sorting? The wool, the uniformity. The wool is not uniform in all the parts of the sheep. The wool is not uniform in all the parts of the fleece of a sheep. So some parts of fleece have fine wool, whereas some others have coarse wool. Okay, and some of the wool may also be long wool fibers, and some others may be of short wool fibers. Okay, so sorting is done. In this process, what happens? The fleece is sent to a factory where it is broken and separated into different sections of different quality fibers. Okay, the process of separating the fleece of the sheep into sections according to the quality of wool fibers, such as fine, coarse, long, short, etc., is called as sorting. Okay, so after scouring, sorting is done. The hairy skin is sent to a factory where hair of different textures are separated or sorted. Next, step number 4. The small fluffy fibers called burrs are picked out from the hair, and the fibers are scoured again and dried. So this is the wool which is ready to be drawn into fibers. Next step number 5. The fibers are then dyed. Okay, this process is also known as dyeing. The fibers are then dyed into various colors according to the requirement of the customers. The fibers are dyed into various colors. Okay, as the natural face of sheep is sheep or say goat is black, brown or white. Therefore, according to the requirement, the fibers can be dyed into various colors. Okay, next step number 6. The fibers are straightened, combed and rolled into yarn finally. Clear? So these are some of the steps which are involved in the processing of woolen yarn. Okay, clear? Next question number 4. What is occupational hazard? Name one occupational hazard. What do you mean by occupational hazard? The risk. It is the risk faced by people working in any industry due to their nature of their work. Those hazards are only known as what? Occupational hazard. Okay, it is the risks faced by people working in any industry due to their nature of their work are called as what? Occupational hazard. Okay, and Soter's disease is an occupational hazard. Okay, clear? Okay. Next, question number 5. Name the most common silk moth. What are the characteristics of silk fibers obtained from the cocoons of this silk moth? The most common silk moth is what? Mulberry silk moth. And what are the characteristics of the fiber obtained from this silk moth? See, the silk fiber from the cocoon of this mulberry silk moth is soft. It is soft, lustrous, that means shiny. It is elastic and can be dyed into beautiful colors. It can be dyed into various beautiful colors. Okay, these are the characteristics of the silk fibers obtained from the cocoons of this mulberry silk moth. Next question, what is a cocoon? The silky covering spun by the caterpillar or silkworm of silk moth is called cocoon. Simply. Okay, silky covering spun. Next, question number 7. Describe the life history of silk moth briefly. Okay, see, the female silk moth lays eggs from which hatch larvae. Okay, the female silk moth lays eggs on the leaves of a mulberry tree. Then what happens? The eggs hatch to form a worm-like larva. Okay, and the larvae of silk moth are called what? Caterpillar or silkworms. Then what happens? They grow in size, and when the caterpillar is ready to enter the next stage of its life history, which is called as pupa, first of all, it will weave a net to hold itself. Okay, when the silkworm or caterpillar is ready to enter the next stage of its development, which is called as what? Pupa. First of all, during this stage, what happens? It first weaves a net to hold itself. Then it swings its head. Just like this, in the figure of 8. Like this, it will swing its head. Okay. Then it swings its head from side to side in the form of figure of 8. And during these movements of its head, the silkworm secretes what? Fibers. The silkworm secretes fibers from its head. Okay, during this movement of its head, the silkworm secretes silk in liquid form. Okay, during these movements, the silkworm secretes silk in liquid form. In liquid form, it will secrete silk. Okay, silk will be secreted in the liquid form through the tiny opening in its head, which then solidifies. It then solidifies on exposure to air. It will come out from its head, right? Then it will what? It will become solidified. Okay, it will become hard. Okay, so during this movement During these movements of its head, the caterpillar secretes fiber, which is made up of a protein which hardens on exposure to air, and it becomes silk fiber. Okay, and soon the caterpillar completely covers itself by silk fibers and turns into pupa. Okay, the caterpillar completely covers itself wholly. Okay, and this covering is known as ultimately cocoon. Okay, and the further development of the pupa into moth continues inside this cocoon. Clear? So this is only the life history of silk moth. Okay, this way the life history of silk moth is completed. Next question, question number 8, and this is the last question for today's video. Okay, after this chapter will be completely over. Describe briefly how silk is produced. Okay, describe briefly how silk is produced. That means we have to describe the production of silk. So first of all, the processes involved in the production of silk are rearing silkworms and processing silk. Okay, rearing silkworms. First of all, a female silk moth lays hundreds of eggs at a time, and the eggs are stored carefully on strips of cloth or paper and sold to silkworm farmers. Right. Then what the silkworm farmers does? The farmers keep eggs under hygienic condition. It keeps the eggs under hygienic condition and under suitable conditions of temperature and humidity. Right. Then the eggs are warmed to a suitable temperature for the larva to hatch from the eggs. This is done when the mulberry trees bear a fresh crop of leaves, because the caterpillars feed on what? The caterpillars feed on the mulberry leaves. Okay. This is done when the mulberry trees bear a fresh crop of leaves, and the larva which is also called as the caterpillar or silkworms, eat day and night. They eat day and night. What they eat? They eat mulberry leaves. They eat mulberry leaves day and night and increase enormously in size. They will become bigger and bigger. They'll increase enormously in size. Okay. So the larvae are kept in clean bamboo trays along with freshly chopped mulberry leaves. Okay. They have to eat, right? So after 25 to 30 days, the caterpillars stop eating. They will stop eating by themselves, and they have to be moved to a tiny chamber of bamboo in the tray to spin cocoons. Right? This stage is known as what? Pupa. Okay, the spinning of cocoons. Ultimately, they cover itself. Okay, hold itself by themselves, covering them. Small racks or twigs may be provided in the trays to which cocoons get attached, and the caterpillar or silkworm spins the cocoons, inside which develops the silkworm. That means the further development of the pupa, happens inside the cocoon only, and they will develop into silk moth ultimately. Okay. Next step is processing of silk. Here, a pile of cocoons. The pile of cocoons is used for obtaining silk fibers. Why? Because you see, small racks or twigs may be provided, right? Small racks or twigs was provided in the trays to which cocoons get attached. Okay, cocoons get attached to the small racks or twigs. Then the cocoons will get accumulated over there. The cocoons will get accumulated over there in the twigs or racks. Then what happens? The pile of cocoons is used for obtaining silk fibers. Now all the cocoons which gets accumulated in that twigs or racks, then there will be a pile of cocoons left over there. Okay, so the cocoons are then kept under the sun, or they are boiled or exposed to steam. Okay, basically they are boiled, right? The cocoons are then boiled. Why the cocoons are boiled? Because the boiling water, or say the hot water, will make the silk fibers of cocoons to separate out. Okay, the silk fibers then separate out, and the process of taking out threads from the cocoon for use as silk is called reeling the silk. And reeling is done in special machines which will unwind the threads or fibers of silk from the cocoon. Right, and the silk fibers are then spun into silk threads which are woven into silk cloth by the weavers. Clear? The silk fibers obtained from the cocoons are spun to form silk threads, which is also called as silk yarns, which are also called as what? Silk yarns. Okay, and the silk yarn is then woven on looms into silk cloth by the weavers. Okay, so yes, that's all for today. Thank you and have a nice day. We'll continue our classes, and we'll start the next chapter, that is physical and chemical changes, in the next from the next video. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you and have a nice day.